The kitchen light cast harsh shadows across Claire's face as she laughed at something Matt was saying. I stood in the doorway, invisible as usual, watching my wife of 12 years flirt with our neighbor like I didn't exist. "Come on, Claire," Matt said, his voice carrying that entitled tone I'd grown to despise. "You're telling me Owen's really that predictable?" "Predictable doesn't begin to cover it." Claire poured herself another glass of wine, her third since dinner. $100 and a burger. He's yours for the evening." The joke hung in the air like smoke. Matt's eyebrows shot up, and he reached for his wallet with theatrical flourish. "Deal." He pulled out 10 crisp hundreds and slapped them on our granite countertop. "Where's my burger?" Claire's laughter died. The silence stretched between them, thick and uncomfortable. I cleared my throat and stepped into the kitchen, pouring myself 3 fingers of bourbon like nothing had happened. "Evening, Matt." I raised my glass in mock salute. "Guess I'm worth less than a Tesla charge these days." Matt's face flushed red. He grabbed his money and shoved it back in his wallet. "Owen, I was just joking. I know." I took a long sip, letting the whiskey burn away the taste of humiliation. Claire's always had a great sense of humor. That night, after Matt slunk back to his McMansion next door, I lay in bed listening to Claire's breathing. She thought I was asleep. She thought I was the same predictable Owen who'd let her walk all over him for years. She was wrong. That was the moment I stopped being her husband and started being her reckoning. The next morning, Claire left for her job at Morrison Tech, where she worked as HR director. Matt owned some startup that made apps nobody used. Both of them thought they were so much smarter than the unemployed tech consultant lying around the house all day. They had no idea what unemployed tech consultants could accomplish with the right motivation. I started with Matt's smart home system. The guy had spent a fortune on connected everything: lights, locks, security cameras, even his coffee maker. All of it running on the same network, all of it protected by the password Matt K 2024. Took me about 10 minutes to crack. By noon, Matt's house was broadcasting some interesting messages. His smart doorbell announced, "I love feet," to every delivery driver. His Alexa started randomly playing recordings of him talking about his conquests at maximum volume. His smart TV displayed a slideshow of embarrassing photos from his social media, including one where he'd fallen face first into a wedding cake. I watched through his own security cameras as he ran around his house, frantically unplugging devices. The man was practically foaming at the mouth. But that was just the appetizer. While Matt battled his rebellious appliances, I turned my attention to Claire's phone. She'd left it charging on the kitchen counter, and I knew her passcode, our anniversary date, because she wasn't creative enough to think of anything else. What I found made my bourbon taste like medicine. Text after text between Claire and Matt, going back 6 months, photos I wished I could unsee. But the worst part wasn't the affair itself. It was the contempt, the way they talked about me like I was some pathetic pet they had to tolerate. "He's too passive," Claire had written just last week. "He'll never figure it out." "Even if he does, what's he gonna do?" Matt had replied. "Guy hasn't shown backbone in his entire life." I screenshot everything and uploaded it to a secure cloud drive. Evidence, insurance, ammunition. Then I found the group chat with Lexi, Claire's best friend and partner in crime. Lexi worked in PR and had been helping Claire cover her tracks, creating fake work events and girls' nights that never happened. "You two are playing with fire," Lexi had warned them. "Please," Claire had responded. "Owen's about as dangerous as a golden retriever." I poured another bourbon and started planning. Bill Morrison had been my colleague at TechFlow Solutions before the layoffs hit. Now he spent his days at the Reservoir, a dive bar on the wrong side of town, where nobody asked questions and everybody minded their own business. "You look terrible," Bill said, when I slid into the booth across from him. "Marriage finally catching up with you?" "Something like that." I signaled the bartender, a sharp-eyed woman named Gina who seemed to know everyone's secrets. "I need a favor." "What kind of favor?" "The kind that involves your truck and some equipment from your garage." Bill had worked in corporate security before TechFlow. He knew surveillance, knew electronics, and most importantly, he knew how to keep his mouth shut. After I explained what I needed, without mentioning why, he leaned back and whistled low. "You sure about this, Owen? This sounds like the kind of thing that could blow up in your face." "It already blew up. I'm just cleaning up the mess." That afternoon, we installed a GPS tracker on Matt's BMW. "Nothing illegal. You can buy them online for $50. We also set up a motion-activated camera across from the Marriott downtown, where Matt and Claire had been meeting for their romantic rendezvous. The camera caught them that very evening. Claire had told me she was working late on a personnel review. Instead, she was reviewing Matt's personnel in room 237. I had video of them entering together, timestamp and everything. But I wasn't ready to play that card yet. This wasn't about catching them, it was about destroying them, and destruction required patience. The next evening, I positioned myself at the reservoir's back booth, with a clear view of the front door. Claire thought she was meeting Lexi for drinks. She was, but I'd made sure they'd be sitting within earshot of my table. "This is getting out of hand," Lexi said, stirring her martini nervously. "What if Owen finds out?" "He won't." Claire's voice carried that confident tone I used to find attractive. "The man hasn't surprised me once in 12 years. He's completely predictable." "But what if? What if what? He grows a spine overnight?" Claire laughed, the sound sharp as breaking glass. "Owen's too weak to fight back. Always has been. That's why I married him. Safe, stable, boring Owen who'd never cause trouble." I sipped my bourbon and smiled. They had no idea I was recording every word on my phone. Gina appeared at my table with another drink I hadn't ordered. "On the house," she said quietly. "Sounds like you're having an interesting evening." "You could say that. Word of advice?" She glanced toward Claire's table. "Women like that always underestimate quiet men. Usually costs them everything." After Claire and Lexi left, I stayed at the bar nursing my drink. Gina wiped down glasses and made conversation with the regulars, but I could tell she was thinking. "Your wife?" she finally asked. "Soon-to-be ex-wife. And the blonde? Her accomplice?" Gina nodded like she'd seen this story before. "Men always think they're so clever, cheating on their wives. But women? Women make it an art form. Not this time." "Good." She poured herself a shot and raised it in salute. "Here's to evening the score." That night, I accessed Matt's social media accounts. The man used the same password for everything. Matt K 2024. Which made my job embarrassingly easy. He belonged to several private groups where he bragged about his conquests, shared inappropriate photos, and generally acted like the entitled piece of garbage he was. I downloaded everything, screenshots, videos, private messages, all of it saved to multiple backup drives. Then I did something that would pay dividends later. I made myself an admin on all his accounts. Matt woke up the next morning to find his Instagram story filled with his own private messages. The ones where he'd bragged about nailing married women and cucking their pathetic husbands. His phone started ringing before 7 a.m. Friends, family, business contacts, all wanting to know what the hell was going on. I watched through his security cameras as he stumbled around his kitchen in his underwear, trying to delete posts that kept reappearing faster than he could remove them. The man was having a complete meltdown. But the real fireworks started when Sasha arrived. Sasha was Matt's on and off girlfriend, a fitness instructor with anger management issues and biceps that could crack walnuts. She'd seen the Instagram posts, and she was not happy. "You cheating piece of trash," she screamed, pounding on his front door. "I know you're in there." Matt tried to hide, but his smart doorbell kept announcing her presence at maximum volume. "Motion detected at front door. Motion detected at front door." When he finally opened up, Sasha was holding her phone, showing him screenshots of his own posts. "Married women, Matt. Really? You couldn't just cheat on me with single women like a normal scumbag?" "Sasha, I can explain. Explain this." She threw her protein shake at his face, covering him in chocolate-flavored humiliation. "We're done. Don't call me, don't text me, don't even look at me if you see me at the gym." She stormed off, leaving Matt dripping and defeated on his own doorstep. I poured myself a bourbon and toasted his misery. "Here's to predictable Owen," I said to my empty house. But I was just getting started. The Millbrook Community Festival happened every October, transforming our sleepy suburb into a carnival of local pride and small-town gossip. This year, it would serve a different purpose. I'd been planning this for weeks, ever since I'd won the raffle for stage announcements. Funny how easy it was to win when you knew the raffle coordinator's daughter and helped her with her computer problems for free. Claire spent the morning getting ready, choosing her outfit like she was attending the Met Gala instead of a small-town festival. She settled on a sundress that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. "You're coming, right?" she asked, applying lipstick in the hallway mirror. "Wouldn't miss it." "Good. Try not to embarrass me." If she only knew. The festival was in full swing by the time we arrived. Families wandered between booths selling homemade crafts and overpriced funnel cakes. A local band played covers on the main stage, while kids ran wild through the crowd. I spotted Matt immediately. He was working the crowd like a politician, shaking hands and slapping backs, trying to rebuild his reputation after the social media incident. Sasha was notably absent. "Owen Fletcher to the main stage, please," the announcer called. "Owen Fletcher." Claire looked surprised. "What's that about?" "Raffle prize. I'll be right back." I climbed the steps to the stage, taking the microphone from Jenny Morrison, the festival coordinator. The crowd quieted, maybe 200 people looking up at me with mild curiosity. "Thank you all for coming out today," I began, my voice carrying clearly through the speakers. I wanted to take a moment to thank some special people who've been so generous to me lately. I spotted Claire in the crowd, looking confused. Matt stood near the beer tent, probably wondering why his neighbor was making a speech. "Claire Fletcher, my beautiful wife, and Matt Kincaid, our wonderful neighbor. Could you both come up here? Don't be shy." The crowd applauded politely. Claire's face went pale, but she couldn't refuse without causing a scene. Matt looked like he wanted to run, but social pressure forced him forward. They climbed the stage, Claire's smile tight as a wire, Matt's face flushed red. "These two have shown me such kindness," I continued, pulling out my phone. "In fact, just the other night, Claire made the most generous offer. I recorded it because I thought everyone should hear how thoughtful she is." I pressed play. Claire's voice came through the speakers, clear as crystal. $100 and a burger. He's yours for the evening." Then Matt's response, "Deal." The crowd went silent, 200 people processing what they'd just heard. Then the whispers started, spreading like wildfire through the festival grounds. Claire grabbed for my phone, but I stepped back. "Isn't that sweet? My wife values our marriage at exactly $100 and a burger." Matt here was ready to pay cash. "Owen, stop," Claire hissed, but her voice was picked up by the microphone. "Stop what? I'm just sharing your generosity with our neighbors. After all, you said I was predictable. Guess you were wrong." Matt tried to leave the stage, but I blocked his path. "Where are you going, Matt? Don't you want to tell everyone about your business deal?" The crowd was getting restless. Some people were laughing, others looked uncomfortable. Mrs. Pennington, the neighborhood gossip, was recording everything on her phone. "This is insane," Matt said, his voice cracking. "It was a joke." "Was it? Because you seemed pretty serious about that $1,000. "1,000?" Someone in the crowd called out. "I thought it was 100. "Oh, Matt upgraded the offer," I said into the microphone. "Inflation, you know." That's when Sasha appeared. She pushed through the crowd like an avenging angel, her face twisted with rage. "You lying sack of garbage," she screamed at Matt. "You told me you were done with married women." She had a cup of beer in her hand, and she launched it with perfect aim. The beer caught Matt square in the face, soaking his expensive polo shirt. "Sasha, wait!" Matt tried to explain, but she was already climbing the stage. "Wait, nothing. I heard what you said. $100? You're pathetic." The crowd was eating this up. Phones came out, recording the chaos. Claire looked like she wanted to disappear into the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen," I announced, "I think we're done here. Thanks for your attention. And remember, sometimes the quiet ones are just waiting for their moment." I handed the microphone back to Jenny and walked off the stage, leaving Claire and Matt to face the crowd's stares and whispers. Gina from the reservoir was standing near the beer tent, grinning like she'd just won the lottery. "Well, well," she said as I approached. "Guess the Fletchers are running a brothel now." The crowd erupted in laughter. Claire fled toward the parking lot, Lexi trailing behind her. Matt stood on the stage looking like he'd been hit by a truck, beer dripping from his hair. But the best part was yet to come. I'd arranged for Matt's car to be decorated while we were on stage. Nothing illegal, just some washable paint and a few creative messages. "Homewrecker" across the windshield. "For sale, cheap," on the driver's side door. Mrs. Pennington was still filming when Matt discovered his BMW. His scream of rage could be heard 3 blocks away. The video would be on social media within an hour, shared and reshared until half the town had seen it. Matt's reputation wouldn't survive the week. I drove home alone, leaving Claire to find her own way back. When I arrived, I changed the locks and froze our joint bank accounts. She'd called me predictable for the last time. Claire didn't come home that night, or the next. She was staying at Lexi's apartment, probably plotting her next move. But I wasn't worried. I held all the cards now. Matt, on the other hand, was losing what was left of his mind. He showed up at the reservoir on Thursday night, 3 sheets to the wind, and looking for trouble. I was sitting in my usual booth, nursing a bourbon and watching the local news coverage of the festival incident. "You think you're clever?" Matt slurred, stumbling over to my table. "You think you're clever?" Matt slurred, stumbling over to my table. Matt looked at Bill's 6-foot frame and thought better of whatever he'd been planning. "This isn't finished," he said, pointing a shaky finger at me. "Yes, it is." But Matt wasn't done making bad decisions. The next night, he followed me from the bar to the old mill complex on the edge of town. The place had been abandoned for 20 years, a maze of empty buildings and rusted machinery that the city council kept promising to demolish. I knew he was following me. His BMW's headlights weren't exactly subtle, so I led him exactly where I wanted him to go. The main mill building was a cathedral of decay, its windows broken and floors covered with debris. I parked near the loading dock and waited. Matt's car pulled up a few minutes later. He got out slowly, probably second-guessing his decision to confront me in a deserted industrial complex at midnight. "Owen," he called out. "I know you're here." I stepped out of the shadows near the loading dock. "You wanted to talk, Matt? Let's talk." He approached cautiously, his expensive shoes crunching on broken glass. "You can't just destroy people's lives because your feelings got hurt." "Hurt feelings?" I laughed. "You think this is about hurt feelings? What else would it be? It's about consequences. You and Claire thought you could treat me like garbage, make jokes about selling me like a piece of meat. You thought I'd just take it because I always have. It was a joke." "Was the affair a joke too? Were all those texts about what a pathetic loser I am just comedy gold?" Matt's face went pale. He hadn't realized how much I knew. "That's right, Matt. I've seen everything. Every message, every photo, every cruel comment. You two thought you were so smart, so superior. But you forgot one thing." "What?" "I'm a tech consultant. I know how to find things people want to keep hidden." I pulled out my phone and showed him a screenshot of his private messages, the ones where he'd bragged about nailing the HR director and making her husband pay for the hotel rooms. "You're sick," he said, but his voice was shaking. "I'm thorough. There's a difference." Matt tried to grab my phone, but I stepped back. He lost his balance and stumbled into a puddle of oil and rainwater that had collected near the loading dock. His expensive suit was ruined, designer fabric soaked with industrial sludge. He looked like exactly what he was, a spoiled rich boy who'd finally met someone willing to fight back. "Hope your dry cleaner's open late," I said. Matt struggled to his feet, slipping and sliding in the muck. "This isn't over." "Yes, it is. You're going to leave town, Matt. You're going to sell your house, close your business, and disappear. Because if you don't, I'll release everything I have on you. Every message, every photo, every dirty secret. Your investors will see it. Your family will see it. The whole world will know what kind of man you really are. You can't make me do anything." "Can't I?" I showed him another screenshot, this one from his business accounts. "Did you know your company's been inflating user numbers to attract investors?" "That's fraud, Matt. Federal crime. I've got all the documentation." His face went white. "How did you?" "Like I said, I'm thorough." Matt stood there dripping with oil and defeat, finally understanding that he'd picked a fight with the wrong man. The entitled rich boy who'd thought he could take whatever he wanted had met his match. "What do you want?" he whispered. "I want you gone. Pack your bags, sell your house, and get out of my town. You've got 1 week, and if I don't, then you'll find out just how unpredictable I can be." Matt limped back to his car, leaving muddy footprints on the concrete. His BMW wouldn't start at first. I may have loosened a few connections while he was inside, but eventually the engine turned over. I watched his taillights disappear into the night, then pulled out my phone and called Bill. "It's done," I said. "Matt won't be a problem anymore." "What about Claire?" "Claire's next." The invitation went out on Saturday morning. "Reconciliation dinner, Sunday 6 p.m., the Fletcher House. Come help us work things out." I sent it to everyone who mattered. Claire's boss at Morrison Tech, Lexi, Matt, Sasha, Bill, Gina from the bar, even Mrs. Pennington, a nice cross-section of our social circle, all gathered to witness the grand finale. Claire had been staying at Lexi's apartment since the festival, but she couldn't ignore a dinner invitation to her own house, especially not when her boss would be there. She arrived early, probably hoping to set the narrative before the other guests showed up. She found me in the kitchen, preparing appetizers like nothing had happened. What is this, Owen? What are you trying to prove? I'm trying to save our marriage, I said, not looking up from the cheese board. Isn't that what you want? After what you did at the festival? After you humiliated me in front of the entire town? I thought you'd appreciate the honesty. You always said I should be more direct. Claire's boss, Janet Morrison, arrived at 6 sharp. She was a no-nonsense woman in her 50s who'd built Morrison Tech from nothing and didn't tolerate drama in her organization. Claire, Owen, she said, accepting a glass of wine. I hope we can resolve whatever's been happening. The festival incident has people talking. I'm sure it has, I said. Lexi arrived next, looking nervous and overdressed. She kept glancing at Claire like they were sharing some secret communication. Matt showed up 20 minutes late, wearing sunglasses despite the evening hour. He'd tried to clean up since our encounter at the mill, but he still looked like a man who'd been through a blender. Sasha came with Gina from the bar, an unlikely pair, but they'd bonded over their shared contempt for cheating men. Bill arrived last, carrying a bottle of bourbon and wearing his most innocent expression. Thank you all for coming, I said once everyone had drinks. I know this situation has been difficult for everyone involved. Difficult? Sasha snorted. That's one way to put it. I think we should address the elephant in the room, Janet said. Claire, the rumors about you and Mr. Kincaid are affecting workplace morale. I need to know if there's any truth to them. Claire's face went red. Janet, I can explain. Actually, I interrupted. I think I can explain better. I pulled out my phone and connected it to our smart TV. The screen lit up with a timestamp from 3 weeks ago. Claire and Matt entering the Marriott Hotel together. This is from the security camera across the street, I explained calmly. As you can see, they're quite comfortable with each other. Janet's wine glass stopped halfway to her lips. Claire? Owen, how dare you? There's more. I switched to the audio recording from the reservoir. Claire's voice filled the room. The man hasn't surprised me once in 12 years. He's completely predictable. Then Lexi's voice. What if Owen finds out? And Claire's response. He won't. He's too weak to fight back. Always has been. The room went silent. Janet set down her wine and stared at Claire like she was seeing her for the first time. This is a violation of privacy, Lexi said weakly. Is it? I asked. Because I recorded it in a public place. No expectation of privacy in a bar, according to Massachusetts law. I switched to Matt's social media posts, the ones where he'd bragged about his conquests. His face appeared on the screen, grinning like an idiot while he typed messages about nailing married women and cucking their husbands. These are Matt's own posts from his private groups, I explained. He was quite proud of his achievements. Matt tried to leave, but I'd activated the smart lock on the front door. Leaving so soon? We haven't gotten to the best part yet. I showed them the text messages between Claire and Lexi, the ones where they'd plotted cover stories and fake events. Then the photos Claire had sent to Matt, the ones I wished I could unsee but knew I needed as evidence. This is enough, Janet said, standing up. Claire, you're terminated, effective immediately. Conduct unbecoming an employee, violation of workplace policies, and frankly, I'm disgusted. Janet, please, don't, just don't. Janet grabbed her purse and headed for the door. Owen, unlock this door right now. I pressed a button on my phone, and the lock clicked open. Janet left without another word. Sasha was laughing. You two deserve each other. Pathetic. This is illegal, Matt said desperately. You can't hold us prisoner. I'm not holding anyone prisoner. You're free to leave anytime. I unlocked the door again. But you might want to check your car first, Matt. Through the front window, we could all see Matt's BMW in the driveway, or what was left of it. The repo crew had done their work while we were inside. Wheels gone, engine parts scattered, repossessed for unpaid debts, spray painted across what remained. Matt ran outside, followed by most of the dinner party. Funny thing about luxury cars, I called after him. The payments are murder when you're unemployed. Matt's startup had folded the day after the festival, when his investors saw the social media posts. He'd been living on credit cards and borrowed time. Lexi tried to delete the videos from my phone, but I'd already uploaded everything to the cloud. Too late, I told her. It's already been shared with everyone who matters. You're insane, Claire said. She was the only one left in the living room, staring at the TV screen that still showed her text messages. I'm thorough. There's a difference. What do you want, Owen? Money? The house? What? I want you gone. All of you. I want my life back. Claire looked around the house we'd shared for 12 years, finally understanding that it was over. This won't make you happy. No, But it'll make me even. She left that night, taking only what she could carry. Lexi was fired from her PR firm the next morning when her boss saw the evidence of her lies and cover-ups. Matt disappeared entirely, probably to whatever rock he'd crawled out from under. Mrs. Pennington had filmed the whole repo scene and posted it online. The video got 50,000 views in the first day. I stood in my empty house, pouring myself a bourbon and watching the sunset through windows that finally felt clean. "Here's to predictable Owen," I said to the silence. But I wasn't done yet. The mill complex looked different in daylight, less menacing, more pathetic. Like everything else in this story, it was just another piece of suburban decay, waiting for someone to clean it up. Matt had called that morning, his voice shaking with desperation. "We need to talk." "I thought you'd left town." "I can't leave. My assets are frozen, my credit cards are maxed, and I've got nowhere to go." Sounds like a personal problem. "Please, Owen, one conversation, man to man." I almost laughed. Now he wanted to be men about it. But I was curious to see how low he'd sink, so I agreed to meet him at the mill. Bill came along for backup, though I doubted Matt had any fight left in him. We found him sitting on the loading dock where he'd fallen into the oil puddle, looking like he hadn't slept in days. His expensive clothes were wrinkled and stained, his hair unwashed. "You destroyed my life," he said without looking up. "You destroyed your own life. I just documented it." "What do you want? I'll do anything." I pulled out a paper bag and set it next to him. Inside were a dozen fast food burgers and 10 $100 bills. "Here's your payment," I said. $1,000 and some burgers. Consider it severance pay for sleeping with my wife." Matt stared at the money like it was contaminated. "I don't want your money." "Sure you do. You're broke, remember? Your startup failed, your investors bailed, and your credit's shot. This might be the last honest money you see for a while." "Honest money?" "Well, semi-honest. It's payment for services rendered. You provided entertainment for my wife, I'm paying the agreed-upon rate." Matt's face crumpled. The entitled rich boy who'd thought he could take whatever he wanted was finally facing consequences. "Take the money, Matt. Buy yourself a bus ticket to somewhere far away. Start over. Maybe learn some humility." He grabbed the bag with shaking hands. "This isn't over." "Yes, it is." Bill stepped forward, all 6 feet and 200 pounds of him. "I think the man said it's over." Matt looked between us, finally understanding that he was outnumbered and outmaneuvered. He walked away carrying his bag of shame, shoulders slumped in defeat. "Think he'll actually leave?" Bill asked. "He doesn't have a choice. I made sure of that." We drove back to town, past the festival grounds where it had all started. The cleanup crews were still working, taking down booths and sweeping up the debris of small-town celebration. At the reservoir, Gina had the evening news playing on the bar TV. The story was about a local tech executive who'd been arrested for investor fraud. Apparently Matt's inflated user numbers had caught federal attention. "Looks like your neighbor's having a bad week," Gina said, pouring me a bourbon. "Former neighbor, he's relocating. Good riddance." The bar was busier than usual, filled with people wanting to gossip about the Fletcher marriage scandal. I'd become something of a local celebrity, the quiet guy who'd finally snapped and taken down the town's golden couple. Mrs. Pennington was holding court near the pool table, telling anyone who'd listen about the repo scene at my house. Her video had gone viral locally, shared on every neighborhood Facebook group and community forum. "Owen Fletcher," she said when she saw me, "the man of the hour. I never would have guessed you had it in you. Most people underestimate quiet men." "Well, you certainly proved them wrong. What's next for you?" "Peace and quiet." That night, I sat in my clean house, drinking good bourbon and reading a book without interruption. No Claire complaining about my habits, no Matt's music thumping through the walls, no drama or lies or betrayal. Just silence. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You won." I didn't recognize the sender, but something about the message seemed familiar. Then it hit me. Sasha. I called the number. "How long have you known?" "About Claire and Matt?" "About 6 months. I saw them at a restaurant downtown. Thought you should know." "Why didn't you tell me? Would you have believed me?" "You seemed happy enough living in denial." She had a point. 6 months ago, I might not have been ready to hear the truth. So you helped me instead. I fed you information when you needed it, made sure you had evidence, figured you deserved better than being made a fool of. Why? Because cheaters deserve what they get. And because you reminded me of my dad, good man who got walked on by people who thought they were better than him. I raised my bourbon to the empty room. Here's to good men and the people who believe in them. Here's to revenge served cold. The next morning, Claire's lawyer called. She wanted to discuss divorce terms, property division, alimony. I listened to his pitch about amicable settlements and mutual respect, then gave him my counteroffer. She gets nothing. I have documentation of adultery, fraud, and emotional abuse. Massachusetts is a no-fault state, but judges still consider conduct when dividing assets. Mr. Fletcher, I don't think you understand. I understand perfectly. Your client thought she could humiliate me publicly and still walk away with half my assets. She was wrong. The lawyer tried to negotiate, but I'd done my homework. Claire's affair, combined with her lies and deception, gave me significant leverage. She'd get her personal belongings and whatever money she'd saved independently. Everything else stayed with me. 2 weeks later, the divorce papers were signed. Claire didn't contest the terms. She couldn't afford to, not with her reputation in ruins and her career destroyed. I ran into her at the grocery store a month later. She was working as a cashier at a discount chain, her designer clothes replaced with a polyester uniform. "Owen," she said when I approached her register. "Claire, are you happy now? Is this what you wanted?" I looked at her, really looked. The woman who'd once seemed so sophisticated and superior now looked tired and defeated. But I felt no satisfaction in her downfall, just a quiet sense of justice. "I wanted honesty," I said. "I wanted respect. I wanted to be treated like a human being instead of a joke. It doesn't have to be like this. We could try again." "No, we couldn't." I paid for my groceries and walked away, leaving Claire to her new reality. Outside, the autumn air was crisp and clean, full of possibility. That evening, I sat on my back porch with a bourbon and watched the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and crimson. My house was quiet, my conscience was clear, and my future was my own. Somewhere across town, Matt was probably packing for his bus ride to nowhere. Claire was counting her register and wondering how her perfect life had fallen apart so quickly. Lexi was updating her resume and trying to explain her termination to potential employers. And I was exactly where I wanted to be, free. The phone rang. Bill, probably wanting to grab a drink and celebrate our victory. But when I answered, it was a voice I didn't recognize. "Mr. Fletcher, this is Jennifer Walsh from TechFlow Solutions. We have a position opening up and your name came highly recommended. A new job, a fresh start, the chance to rebuild my professional life on my own terms." "I'd be very interested," I said. As I hung up the phone, I raised my glass to the darkening sky. "Here's to $100, a burger, and a clean slate." The quiet man had found his voice, and he wasn't planning to whisper anymore. "Dwa noile dwa piena danoidi, dzwanoidia, dwa noili dwa pituish, dzwienais."